Alright, let's cut through the noise. Most guys, they operate on this fundamental misunderstanding. They think winning a woman's heart, building that deep obsessive connection, is a puzzle you solve with the right pieces. Shared hobbies, deep conversations about life goals, demonstrating you'd be a reliable partner, a good provider, the whole checklist. They believe attraction is built logically, brick by brick, through consistency, through proving you're a safe bet. Be a nice guy, they say. Be attentive, be reliable, be there, ensure appreciation, respect, maybe even a comfortable companionship that can come from that. But obsession, addiction, that raw, pull you apart from the inside kind of desire, that doesn't live in the land of logic. That comes from somewhere else entirely, somewhere darker, deeper, far more primal. Think about addiction for a second. Real addiction. It doesn't start with a spreadsheet comparing the pros and cons of a substance. It doesn't begin with a reasoned argument. It starts with a feeling, a chemical rush that hijacks the system. Something bypasses the rational brain entirely and plugs straight into the core. That's the ignition point for female obsession too. It's not about what you say, not about your resume, not about how perfectly you remember her coffee order. She doesn't get hooked on your scripted compliments or your perfectly timed good morning texts. She gets hooked on what you awaken inside her. What dormant, hidden chamber of desire you tap into, strike a match against, and set ablaze. That's the thrill of the unknown, the magnetic pull of the unpredictable, the man who doesn't fit neatly into her predefined boxers, who refuses to follow the predictable courtship playbook. When you trigger something in her she didn't fully know was there, a flicker of danger, a jolt of intense curiosity, a feeling of being utterly seen in a way that's slightly unsettling. That's when the roots of obsession take hold. It's chaos that feels like chemistry. It's emotional turbulence disguised as passion. Her nervous system lights up, not because you're predictable and safe, but because you're the opposite. You're a question mark, a riddle wrapped in an enigma, and that uncertainty, it's intoxicating. It scrambles her logical pathways. This isn't conscious. She doesn't sit there rationally deciding, this emotional roller coaster feels healthy. I think I'll become addicted. No, it's primal, chemical. It's pure, unadulterated lust tangled up with profound emotional mystery. And it happens beneath the surface. Before her logical mind even realizes she's starting to spiral, the hook is set. Her body, her emotions, are already reacting to the vibe you emit. The vibe of a man who isn't easily deciphered, who holds something back, who makes her feel alive precisely because she can't quite grasp him. Forget the rulebook that says constant validation and unwavering presence build love. Obsession blooms in the space between your attention. It thrives on the tension of not knowing exactly where she stands with you, of sensing you have depths she hasn't plumbed, desires she hasn't yet unlocked. It's the man who mirrors back her own hidden fantasies, her secret longings, without ever explicitly confirming them, who makes her wonder, who makes her question herself. That's the spark. That's the chemical reaction that logic can't explain and can't compete with, because while her conscious mind might be listing reasons why the safe, reliable guy is the right choice, her primal self is already addicted to the electric current running through her whenever you're near. That feeling, that's the foundation. That's where the real game begins. Not with logic, but with the raw, unsettling power of awakening something wild within her. Let's get real about how addiction works. You don't get hooked on what's steady. You crave the hit that's unpredictable, the rush that might come, the fix you can't schedule. That's the engine of obsession. Women don't spiral over the guy who texts good morning, beautiful like clockwork every day. That's comfort. That's safety. That's background noise. What pulls her under? The man who leaves her guessing, the one whose attention feels earned, not given, whose validation isn't handed out like cheap candy. Think about it like a chemical drip. Too much, too often, and the body builds tolerance. The buzz fades, but give her just enough to feel the jolt, then pull back. That's when the craving ignites. It's not cruelty, it's tension. It's the space between his words, the silence after his touch, the mystery in his eyes she can't quite decipher. She replays it, analyzes it. What did he mean by that? Why hasn't he replied? Is he thinking about me, or someone else? Her mind races. Her emotions churn. That's the drug kicking in. This isn't some conscious choice she makes. I think I'll become emotionally dependent on this confusing guy. No, it's psychological seduction in its rawest form. When he doesn't rush to validate her feelings, when he stays cool while she's emotionally vulnerable, when he's present but not predictable, he flips a primal switch. Her nervous system lights up. Uncertainty becomes a magnet. She starts working for it, trying to earn his approval, his attention, his certainty. But he doesn't give it, not fully. He stays just out of reach. That's the roller coaster. 1 minute, she feels close, connected, seen. The next, he's subtly pulled back, emotionally distant, unreadable. That hot and cold rhythm, it scrambles her logic. It feels like intense chemistry, this wild, passionate connection. But underneath, it's emotional turbulence. Chaos disguised as passion. And here's the brutal truth. She mistakes that chaos for depth, that anxiety for excitement, That high for love. It feels so intense, so all-consuming she believes it must be real, it must be fate. Why? Because predictability is the death of desire for the feminine psyche. Safety is necessary, sure, but it doesn't make the heart race. It doesn't keep her up at night. The man who's always agreeable, always available, always explaining himself. He becomes familiar, expected, and familiarity breeds, well, not contempt, but indifference. But the man who operates with quiet control, who gives her just enough fire to feel alive, but never enough reassurance to feel safe. That imbalance, that delicious, terrifying uncertainty, that's intoxicating. It bypasses her rational mind entirely. It hijacks her emotions. By the time she realizes she's spiraling, she's already addicted to the question mark he represents. She's not craving him necessarily. She's craving the next hit of that unresolved tension. That's the high she confuses for connection. That's where obsession takes root. Let's be brutally honest. Most men suffocate attraction before it even breathes. They flood her inbox. They overshare their life story on the first date. They shower her with compliments like confetti at a parade. They think effort equals interest. But here's the harsh truth. Unearned attention is worthless. Attention, when you give too much, too soon, you kill the very thing you're trying to create, mystery. And without mystery, there's no magnetism, no craving, just polite appreciation, background noise. Restraint isn't about playing games. It's about understanding value. Think of your attention, your validation, your presence. These are your currency, your power. Hand them out freely, constantly, desperately. You devalue them. You become predictable, expected, safe, and safety is where desire goes to die. But hold that currency back. Make her work for a glimpse of it suddenly. It's precious, rare, something to be earned. That shift changes everything. Scarcity doesn't push her away, it pulls her in. Hard. This is the core failure of the nice guy approach. He believes consistency is king. He texts daily. He's always available. He rushes to validate her every feeling, soothe her every doubt. He becomes an emotional vending machine. Insert a smile, get instant affirmation. Predictable, reliable, and utterly forgettable. Why? Because he offers no tension, no challenge, no uncertainty. He makes her feel secure. And profoundly unaroused, he becomes the comfortable chair she sits in, not the roller coaster she craves. The man who masters restraint understands this. He knows his silence speaks louder than another man's poetry. His delayed reply carries more weight than a needy paragraph. He doesn't ignore her. He simply values his own time, energy, and focus more than her instant gratification. He's present when it matters, but never always there. He shares glimpses, not his whole script. This creates a vacuum, an open loop her mind has to fill. Why hasn't he texted? What's he doing? Is he thinking about me? That internal chatter? That's the sound of investment. That's her chasing you. It's about becoming a psychological gravity well. Not by being cold or cruel, but by being centered, unshaken when she throws out a test, a bid for attention, or shares vulnerability hoping for instant validation. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't rush to fill the silence or soothe the discomfort. He stays calm, controlled, maybe offers a measured observation instead of gushing praise. That subtle withholding, that refusal to play the predictable role, it's unnerving, it's electrifying. It signals a deeper value, a man who isn't easily moved, whose approval means something because it's not freely dispensed. Forget chasing. Your power lies in what you withhold, your undivided attention, your constant availability, your desperate need for her approval. When you pull that back, when you make your presence a privilege she feels she has to earn, you flip the script. You stop being the hunter pleading for a chance. You become the prize. And now she leans in. She initiates. She wonders. She replays your rare moments of connection. She starts dressing for chasing your vibe because restraint whispers what neediness screams. I am complete without you. My value isn't tied to your approval, and that's the most intoxicating, addictive thing a woman can feel. You become the drug she didn't even know she needed. Here's the brutal truth. The nice guys never grasp. Women don't bond through comfort. They bond through effort. It sounds counterintuitive, maybe even unfair, but it's wired deep. Think about it. Anything handed to you freely, you value it less. Anything you had to sweat for, strategize for, fight for, that sticks, that becomes precious. That's where real investment happens. Emotional investment isn't built on a foundation of constant reassurance and easy wins. It's forged in the fire of uncertainty and the chase. The good guy follows the script he thinks she wants. Constant contact, instant validation, unwavering availability. He's the emotional vending machine. Insert a coin of her attention, get a predictable treat of his devotion. He makes it easy, painfully easy. And what happens? She appreciates it. She might even respect it, but she doesn't crave it. She doesn't stay up dissecting his texts because there's nothing to decode. He's an open book, left out in the rain, familiar, soggy, ultimately forgettable. He becomes the comfortable couch, nice to have around, but it doesn't make her heart pound. Predictability is the kryptonite of primal desire. Now, enter the man who understands the game. He's not playing her. He's playing a deeper frequency. He's the riddle she can't solve. The closed door she desperately wants the key to. He doesn't hand over his devotion like a pamphlet. He makes her work for glimpses of his approval, his attention, his validation. This isn't cruelty. It's creating value through scarcity. When he doesn't immediately validate her vulnerability. When he stays calm while she's emotionally charged. When his attention feels earned rather than owed. He flips a primal switch. Her ego gets involved. Why isn't he falling at my feet like the others? What do I need to do? That question, that internal itch, is the starting gun. The chase begins. She's not chasing him in the romantic comedy sense. She's chasing the resolution of the tension he created. She's chasing the high of finally cracking his code, earning his rare smile, feeling chosen by someone who doesn't choose. Easily. She texts first. She dresses to impress him. She analyzes his every word, his silences, his subtle shifts in energy. She replays interactions, hunting for clues. Why? Because her mind, her ego, is now fully invested in solving him. This mental effort, this emotional labor she's putting in, that's the bonding agent. It's psychological clue. The more she analyzes, the more she strategizes, the more she works to understand him and win his favor, the deeper she hooks herself. She mistakes this effort, this self-generated obsession, for profound connection. It feels intense, all-consuming. Surely this must be love. But it's not about him yet. It's about the chase itself. It's about the addictive cocktail of uncertainty and the dopamine hit of small, hard-won victories. He becomes the prize, not because he declared himself one, but because he acted like one, scarce, valuable, and worth the effort. And once she's running that race, pouring her emotional energy into winning his validation, that's when the real shift happens. She's not just attracted, she's invested, she's bonded. She's addicted to the feeling of chasing something rare. That's the dark engine of the feminine chase. It's not about destination, it's about the hunger the journey creates. Forget the grand gestures, forget the rehearsed lines. The ultimate seduction weapon isn't something you do, it's something you are. It's the ground beneath your feet, the unshakable core. That deep, unwavering self-possession radiating from you like heat off pavement. This isn't arrogance, it's not bluster. It's calm, centered, unbreakable control over your own energy. The kind of control that doesn't flinch when beauty walks in, doesn't scramble when emotions run high, doesn't beg for approval when silence falls. That is the apex predator energy. That's the frame that turns fascination into addiction. Most men operate from a place of need. Need for her attention, need for her validation, need to prove they're worthy. That neediness leaks out. It's in the eager eyes, the nervous laugh, the constant checking in, the over-staring. It signals one thing loud and clear: my value depends on you choosing me, and that's kryptonite to primal attraction. It makes you predictable, manageable, safe. She might like you, even respect you, but she won't crave you. She won't lose sleep over you, because your energy is tied to her reactions. You're dancing to her tune. The man with the unshakable frame, he dances to his own. His value isn't up for negotiation. It's an internal fact. He doesn't need her. He might want her, enjoy her, desire her deeply. But his sense of self, his purpose, his calm, that's locked down, independent. This is terrifyingly attractive. Why? Because it's psychological. Dominance in its purest, quietest form. It's power under absolute control. When she throws a test, a little jab, a flirtation meant to unsettle, a moment of vulnerability designed to trigger his savior complex, he doesn't react like the others. He doesn't rush to soothe, explain, or qualify himself. He stays calm, observant, maybe offers a wry smile, maybe says nothing at all. His stillness is unnerving. His lack of reaction is a reaction in itself. It screams, your little games don't move me. I see you, but I am unmoved by your attempts to shake me. This is where the magic happens. When she realizes she can't manipulate his emotions, can't provoke the predictable needy response, can't easily earn his validation, that's the moment her respect spikes. That's the moment primal fascination ignites. It's not about him being cold, it's about him being unfathomably centered. His energy becomes a force field, a psychological gravity well. She starts orbiting him, not because he demands it, but because his self-containment creates a vacuum she's compelled to fill. She needs to understand it, needs to earn access to it, needs to feel chosen by someone so obviously complete within themselves. This grumpiness, this refusal to let her beauty or moods dictate his presence, is the purest form of masculine energy. It bypasses her logic and plugs straight into her feminine core. It triggers a deep, often unconscious, craving for leadership. Not the loud, chest-thumping kind, the quiet, assured kind. The kind that makes her feel safe precisely because he doesn't need her to feel safe. He doesn't seek her permission. He doesn't require her constant reassurance. He simply is. Solid, unmoving, a rock in her emotional stream. That energy is addictive because it's rare, because it's the one energy she instinctively knows she cannot control. And the feminine psyche, especially its darker, more primal currents, is drawn to what it cannot control like a moth to an eternal flame. The more composed he stays, the more she unravels internally. The more selective he is with his attention, the more valuable it feels when she gets it. The less he explains himself, the more her mind races to fill the gaps. He becomes the storm she can't weather and the shelter she desperately needs, a contradiction that ignites every cell in her body. This isn't seduction through words or actions. It's seduction through being, an immovable object meeting an irresistible force. And by the time she realizes she's addicted to the calm certainty he radiates, it's too late. His presence has rewired her nervous system. He's not just a man she desires. He's the benchmark, the ghost in her quiet moments, the haunting echo of a power she couldn't touch, but desperately longs to surrender to. That's the imprint of the unshakable frame. It doesn't fade, it lingers. Long after the chase is over,